hello everyone. We are here with Katie Fredin from Fredin's
Hey,
Acres in Minnesota.
I'm from Arlington, or live in Arlington, Minnesota. I'm originally from the suburbs. I moved out here 4 years ago, and we started a farm, my husband and I. And we got cattle, Black Angus cattle. We do fall calving, and we decided let's get some goats. I don't ever remember even petting a goat or anything growing up, not at the fairs or anything, Hennepin County for the cities. But yeah, I thought I would like the fainting kind, but my husband and I both thought that maybe I'd feel bad for the whole fainting aspect after a while. So we decided on Nigerians. And then the day after we got married, I came home and found or heard some weird noises coming from the goat barn. I thought, what is that? And it turns out they were bred, and one of them kidded. And I had no interest in breeding. I thought they were just cute little weed eaters. They're unregistered. And here I am now, and I've transitioned my herd completely to all registered with nicer genetics, and I'm milking. This will be my second year on milk test. And so I've really come a long ways, and kind of just discovered a passion.
So once you thought about getting goats and maybe started digging into breeds, you look up actual breeders?
I only had one other friend that was into goats, and she was just starting out as well. And I mean, like I said, I'm from the suburbs, so none of my friends, all my friends think I'm nuts. They're like, goats? Are you kidding? I'm like, you have no idea. Like, they're so much fun. Yeah, I started with just, oh, this one's registered. Oh, it has some, the verbiage underneath, I had no idea, like on their pedigree, I had no idea what the numbers meant, anything like that. And once I got into breeding, that's when I became a member for ANDA and the Minnesota Dairy Goat Association. And I met some more dairy goat people, and ventured off that way. Just lots of education. I do a lot of, for the U of M extension, a lot of continuing education workshops. And then from there, I've just kind of figured out, okay, I like this, I like that. So now I'm looking for more, certain traits in goats, and so I'm still trying to figure out what I want in my herd, but it's all a learning process.
Between your first breeding season and where you're at now, what are some things that you have kind of figured out about your herd and the direction you want to go with it, besides wanting to transition to registered goats?
Well, my first kidding season was actually during the polar vortex 3 years ago. That was that was a nightmare. Luckily, they all survived. Everything turned out well, but then I still had a couple unregistered, and then I realized, what I wanted to get into. And I attended my first linear appraisal in 2019, and that really opened my eyes to confirmation and what to look for. And I don't know. And one of my friends up in Glencoe, she has a Saanen herd, and so it was really nice to. She has really a really nice herd, and so it was nice to hear from the judge himself of what to look for. And I wanted 2020 to be my first year. Yeah, I'm going to get into shows. This is going to be great. That's when I finally had some nice goats, and with nice genetics, proven family. And so I was super excited to see, how my goats kind of ranked, how they, just their strengths, weaknesses. And for someone that doesn't have that trained eye, prior to COVID, so that was kind of a big bummer to, not go through the linear appraisal with my current herd. In 2019, I don't have those goats that I did get appraised. And it was just a few of them. So yeah, so the whole virtual and all that's been a bummer, but like I said, continuing education, workshops, and going through ANDA and the ADGA, there's been a lot of really good, useful information that I can at least use. And I've got like PowerPoints that I've printed out of what to look for. So I think I'm on the right track.
So was linear appraisal the first performance program that you started with, or did you do milk testing first?
Yep, LA was the first one.
Okay. Now I hear most newer breeders or people new to the performance programs, it's not too tricky to get signed up for linear appraisal. The hardest thing is either finding a host herd, which they've even made that easier. So people who are watching this video that maybe have not linear appraised before, it is fairly common to link up with a couple other smaller herds to make the stop more efficient so that the
Absolutely.
appraisers can maybe do maybe only have 2 goats, maybe you have 5 goats, whatever it may be.
Mm.
But instead of, making all these little stops, yeah, you can usually work something out with some neighboring herds, and then those herds are listed as host herds on the ADGA website. So just a tip for people, that's probably kind of the most awkward part of it is just probably finding a herd to hook up with or a couple herds to hook up with. But once you
Absolutely.
make those contacts, it's kind of nice
But
to have those people.
absolutely. So when I reached out to my friend Bev, well, I mean, now she's a friend. When I first reached out to her, I had no idea who she was, but I saw she was a host herd and on the ADGA website. And so I contacted her and said, hey, would you be interested, or am I available to bring my goats out and just get a couple of them appraised? And sure, absolutely. And so it's nice to make those contacts and you develop those friendships.
And how you had mentioned before that it was actually pretty cool to have a different breed getting appraised at your stop. That
Mhm.
happened at our stop too, and I thought it was really cool because most of my friends are Nigerian herds. And so to hear an appraiser talk through some standard breeds, I felt like was kind of a new learning experience as well. So if you've never been to a linear appraisal, the judge or the appraiser will actually just stand there and kind of talk frankly in front of everybody who's there, and everybody just stands and listens. And it is so beneficial not only for your own herd,
Mhm.
but to hear them talk through maybe your friend's herd as, grandmas and cousins and whatever to your herd, or maybe it is a totally different breed that has nothing to do with your herd, but there's still some learning that can happen at that. Now, milk testing, on the other hand, I know so many people get derailed because for whatever reason, it's very, very confusing. And it was confusing to me when I first started. And I didn't really understand that some labs have their own data processing center, some labs do not. Some labs only work with certain data processing centers. Are you the owner? Are you the sampler? Are you the superintendent? Or like, how did you navigate
It
that?
can be super confusing. I so on ADGA, there's a PDF that shows all the different testing centers and who you can go with. And I looked on the sheet and I saw, oh, Minnesota DHIA. I literally I had no idea that a lot of those other ones could be in Minnesota, but so I saw Minnesota. I called them. They gave me a contact, and Val, she's fantastic. I had to have bugged her for gosh, on and off for 9 months, just emails, asking just random questions. And I was like, sorry to bug you again. And she's like, no, ask away. This is how people learn. And so it was super nice to have her to lean on to, kind of guide me in the right direction. And what's really nice is ADGA is actually super lenient your first year. So my milk tester, he's been with the Minnesota DHIA for 42 years. And he's only done one other goat herd, and that was, he said, about 30 years ago. And they're all Nubians. And so he sees my little Nigerians and he's kind of chuckling. I said, it's okay, you can laugh. Like, he's not used to that little milk volume, compared to a cow.
Right.
But yeah, so and that you're bound to make mistakes. Like I didn't notice that I told him, oh, just the standard test. Well, he had me down for a standard 31. That's not recognized by the ADGA. That's a cow standard. So little things like that, where I just contact the ADGA, say, hey, my first test, it was under this. And they say, okay, well, at least you told us, that's okay. Like, we'll get it switched over. So it's really nice that they're so lenient on your first year.
So
They all know, they know we're all mistakes.
So after you made it through your first eval, now, so for people who aren't very familiar with milk testing, in summer, the Dairy Goat Association will kind of crunch all the numbers and will release production evaluations. And then they do it again in kind of December-ish. and they also crunch all the numbers on the linear appraisal data if there's new data. So when you first got those numbers back, the first time your evals came through, did you know how to use that information to work with your herd? Or did you not even really realize evals were a thing?
I mean, I guess I'm not sure what you mean by crunching in middle of summer and in December. I know like after every single test, I did mine a test every month, and you'd get numbers back at,
Right. Those are
after
like
a few
your
days.
doe sheets.
Yeah.
When the breed leader information comes out and the elite list comes out. So
Okay. Yep.
yep, those are
Yeah.
released because these new numbers were crunched. So what happens
Mhm.
is they take all of the new data from the last 6 or so months, and then they recalculate all of the milk production data against all of the relatives and cousins and grandma and everybody. So those numbers like PTI numbers and production evaluations and those type of things all get recalculated with all the new data being included in it. So it sounds like that might be not something you've really even dug into yet, being kind of newer
I
to
did
those
it
numbers.
with a PTI a little bit. I know
Okay.
one of my does did earn. I shouldn't. She got up to like the percentage. She got up to her superior genetic because there's no LA on file. She couldn't earn that officially. But yeah, all those numbers are really interesting. Last year, I think my turd was on it for between 8-9 months, something like that, or 8 months, excuse me, and then I dried him off early. And so this year I want to do the full 10 month um, testing.
So
And
you normally, is it that you don't want to milk through winter, or it's just that was kind of long enough for you? You needed a break.
no, well, so our does didn't start kidding until the end of March,
Okay.
mid-April, something like that. So it was kind of late. And then all of a sudden, and we also had a vacation going on in the winter. So at least my first year, that was getting my toes wet, seeing those numbers, seeing how they're doing, seeing the butterfat versus protein level, seeing if they're maintaining or dropping or inclining. And we also dam raise. And so that eventually I would like to bottle raise, but my husband and I, we each have full-time jobs. I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse for probably about 10 years or so. But I work from home, all on the computer for the U of M Medical Center. And my husband is a co-owner of a lumber yard in town. And so with my work, I can easily go out or, take care of the animals. I know this is a totally side note. But that's also, I have flexibility of signing on for work. So that's why, I figured it's perfect to get my toes wet, if it takes a little bit longer or whatever in the mornings or the evenings, like I'm always home. So just the first year, like I said before, you're bound to make mistakes here. And then does withholding milk, I'm all over the place.
So you're primarily dam raising, but pulling them for
Yes.
milk test days. And then how have you been using that milk test information to cull your herd and improve it? Or is it just another piece of information helping you maybe make better feed choices? Or what is
last year it was for me making better feed choices. So over this past winter, I did get better quality. I got alfalfa. It's like a 78% alfalfa orchard blend.
Okay.
But last year they weren't on alfalfa. They didn't, so it was nice. It'll be nice to see the difference between last year and this year. They were on really good grass hay and they had really good, grain protein supplement, but not alfalfa. So I'm super excited to see the differences.
Okay. So do you have does then now that you freshened a few times, or did you start with babies when you went to registered stock, or were you able to get some older does to kind of compare?
Both.
Oh,
Both.
nice.
So I got a couple older ones I know from Sheer Country and Castle Rock. And I saw their udders before. And so this will be their second freshening here. And like I said, I'm just excited to see the differences.
So for 2021, it sounds like you actually kind of have a lot of new things going on to kind of be excited about. Have you started kidding yet?
Yep, we did on Tuesday last week.
Okay, so probably not your first milk test yet.
No,
Okay.
we're gonna start that in probably about a week.
Okay.
week
And
and
how
a half.
many more does do you have left to freshen? Are they all kind of coming soon, or is that it? Or
11. They're all in increments. And so
oh,
I had 6 of them due all within about 5 days, something like that. I mean, it's a lot of work, but then
yeah.
I can get them on test, for that first test. Then the next group I can get on, for the second test. But yeah.
So your first breeding season, did you have your own buck, or did you use a friend's buck, or how did that work?
And that was something I've been told the bucks don't matter, that it's all about having nice quality does. So that's something that I really learned. I bought my first registered buck because I know with our bulls, for our cattle, we always use, or our cows, we always use registered bulls. And so, because remember my first year, I didn't have all registered.
Sure.
So anyways, I just thought, oh, when you first start out, it's all color and how they look, stuff like that. But so I know he was chamois with a little bit of white, and I thought he was so pretty. And looking back, you learn.
Sure.
This year, I got some nicer quality bucks, and then I got for this season, a lot of my kids are from Castle Rock Brash Ice.
Okay.
So I'm super excited about that.
Very nice.
Yeah. But yeah, I was told by multiple people that your bucks don't matter, as long as you have nice does. Well, I've done a lot more research, and no, your bucks half your herd. So
Yeah, that's interesting advice. And you know what? The one thing I could see having some truth maybe is if you have very strong genetics in your dam lines. Because if the dams
okay.
are very consistent, then the buck
Mhm.
maybe would have less influence, but I would never discount what he brings to the table.
Right. Yeah. And so all this, over the past few years, it's been amazing to see, like, well, first off, my transition of, oh, where these weird noises coming from the goat barn, what is that, to now I'm gonna start my second year of milk testing and getting into genetics. And I'm super excited to see what all these different goats with different lines, genetics, see what they all bring to the table, and with different bucks, how I can improve for the next generation. So
So it
I'm
sounds
really
like
hoping LA comes back this year.
everybody
All
keeps
right.
saying that, all the people who like these performance programs know how valuable that is to helping you make good decisions with your herd. And whether you've been doing this for 2 years or 20 years, I just think it's always nice to get a really strong opinion from somebody that is, maybe not your friend or your neighbor, or, you look at
Right.
your goats every day. And I think, people talk about being barn blind or whatever, but I just think it's nice to get an outsider opinion. And if you don't show, you don't even have that to kind of hear some, well, I like this doe's rump better than that doe's rump or something, so
Yeah.
really it's, it's so valuable for so many reasons that I really hope that they can figure it out too, because just
Right.
missing one season was, kind of
And
rough.
I know what you mean. It's about being biased about your own herd. So, or it's a friend saying, oh yeah, they look great, or, oh, this, whatever. I remember, it was the U of M extension had one on cattle, and it was about body condition scoring. And they say, whenever you do your own herd, your odds are you're going to, you see your cattle differently than what other people may see it as.
Sure.
And so they say, okay, why don't you write down what you think all the body condition scores are of your herd, of all your different cows, and then have someone else completely, an outsider come in and they score it and see how they compare. So I know cows and goats, but
Oh, I think there's a lot of similarities there. And I've seen it even in my own herd at the beginning of the season. I'm all excited for our first show, and I have a doe that I think looks really out of this world. And I take her to the show and kind of see where she stacks up with others in her age group, because I keep a small herd too. So I don't have 10
Mhm.
2-year-olds to compare. I don't have
Right.
5-year-olds, So, it's kind of hard to judge like a first freshener against, a more mature doe. So
Right.
something I think looks, pretty awesome for whatever age group they're in. I take them to a show and I'm like, oh, the rudder isn't quite what I had, it's not really stacking up with the local competition, or it's not, and I think,
Right.
all of these ways to get data on your herd all bring value, whether it's showing or linear appraisal or the milk test data. obviously everybody has different goals. You know, some people it's all about the grand champion. Some people it's all about that big production. I find that in my herd, I like to be very well rounded. My kids like the show, I like the production data, and I'm always looking at the linear appraisal stuff. So, you know, some things show a little better, even if they're not as correct as another animal, or they don't milk as much as another animal. So
Right.
in my family, because I have 3 kids and me, you know, we have a lot of boxes to check when it comes to keeping a doe. In your herd, what do you feel are the boxes you're trying to check with this kidding season, as far as animals that you want to keep or things you're hoping to see?
I guess I'm trying to retain kids that have more, I'd like to see more level, wider rumps, longer kids. That's what I'm hoping for. And then if not, you know, there's next, you know, get another buck, try again. I mean, everything's trial and error.
So did you purposely bring that buck in trying to improve those 2 traits? Or you just went for kind of this general, the best quality buck I could get my hands on?
Best quality buck that I could get my hands on.
Okay.
A lot, I mean, to me, I have a lot of yearling bucklings, so you really don't know how exactly they're going to mature, but you just look at the parents.
Right.
And so that's why I have Brash. He's an older guy, an old man of the group, but he's well proven. And so, yeah, but all of my other bucks are all yearlings. And so they're all looking really good so far. So all the pictures on my website, which I'm still learning how to take proper pictures, but they look pretty decent so far, and fingers crossed.
Did you want to share your website with anybody, or are you still accepting any type of reservations, or is everything spoken for already?
Yeah, no, reservations, some are still open. Yeah, it's fredinsacres.com. I have a web or a page that's all about our herd, how we started, just all about it. And I have pictures. I have a ton of pictures, so you can see like where we started. We actually last year built a whole new goat barn and cattle barn. So we've got 3 barns on our property now. And yeah, there's pictures, the whole profile of, you know, from start to finish building this barn. And
so that's a fun question too. So we have kind of a little pole barn, and it was what was here when we moved in. And I always kind of think about like my dream barn, like if I was going to build my perfect barn. Being newer to the goats, did you have an idea of what your kind of perfect barn would be? Or
I did a lot of, well, I saw a bunch of other people's barns. I saw, you know, and then there's that Facebook page, goat barn photos and ideas or something. I got a lot of ideas on there. And so no, it looks like a hoop barn. It's actually an AccuSteel fabric covered building. It's not a heated barn. Goats don't need a heated building. And we just did a heated milk room kind of lean off the side of it. And so no, a lot of our ideas came off of that Facebook page. And then I would ask people, if you could do anything differently, what would it be?
Sure. Yeah, that's always the good question. Like, what did I screw up? Did you want to give us a little tour or share any of your animals with us, or are you afraid you're going to lose your signal?
No, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can.
Yeah, you know, feel free to kind of tour us around, and anything that you feel might be beneficial to share or show anyone, or might just want to turn your camera around.
I can't turn the camera around.
Oh, you can just turn your phone around then and just kind of ballpark it.
Yes.
There we go.
Standing like off to the side.
Oh, there you go.
So, yeah, this is our milk room. I just have a lot of drawers, a lot of cabinet space. I don't even know what you can see here. Lots of cabinet space. I've got a milk machine off to the corner here. And a lot of people got back to me saying, I wish I did bigger. And so I was originally just going to do a two stanchion milk stand, but I decided to go big or go home. I got 4, so I can milk 4 goats at once. And then I've got oats, grain, and in what, I think they're 44 gallon, but I need to keep checking. Bins on wheels, just lots of cabinet space. Right here, I just have some pens set up just in case it's cold and the kids need to come in. Small refrigerator with freezer. It's kind of a mess, but it's an organized mess. I know where everything is. And our sink.
So I see a semen tank there. Have you
Yes,
have you dabbled in AI?
With cows.
Cows, okay.
So yeah, on my website I've got bucks on ice, but I want to try to get into that this fall with goats. So yeah, and then right here is a drain, and so it would be nice to, what I would like to do is to bathe goats in here, and so it's, you know, not 100 degrees outside and super humid. And bathing and clipping. The idea is so that I can do it in here.
Very nice.
Thanks. And then these panels, that's like I said, I just set these up for the kidding season, but otherwise this just remains empty. Or putting some, you know, just space to have just in case. That was one thing I heard from people as well.
Just some flex space. That makes sense.
Yeah, like you just never have enough room. Watch me go out here, and there we go. We bale our own hay. So we do round bales. And I just kind of peel them off layer by layer for, it's like an orchard clover blend. And then I have this fabric, little walkway here. It's, otherwise, if I just let them out, they're going to go all over the place. You know, goats are goats.
Oh, yeah.
And then we've got our straw over here. This is kind of just our project area over here. We use this also for machine shed storage. So like our baler, our disc vine, and wheel rake. And
so
then
what is that material that the roof's made out of?
It's like a canvas. It's the strongest canvas on the market. It can withhold all the snow load that Minnesota gets, as well as our high winds. And it's not a hoop barn like a lot of people think it is, but it's actually on the edges. Let's see, where am I at? On the edges there, it's on a track system and it's tensioned. And so it's very different than a hoop barn. And then we've got LED lights up at the top. So from outside, it looks like a globe. It glows.
It's very light, and I love that. It looks like you get a lot of light in there.
Yeah, yep, it lets in the natural sunlight. So that's what also we love about this building. And then I put little doors. I don't know if you can see that.
Mm-hmm.
I cut out little doors, and those are freezer curtains. And so in the summer I can take those off or just leave a couple on. So that's kind of nice. See, and of course I come out and one starts coughing. That's just but anyways, no, and then I do alfalfa in one, and these are heated buckets. My dad built but yeah.
Very nice.
So yeah, and then I made a little creep on the other side. And those are our little kid pens. Dam can get in and out as she pleases, and the kids are in there safe and sound.
That's a really unique idea too. I haven't seen a setup like that before. And
Yeah.
that works out well for you. The mom just kind of goes over there and the kids nurse, and then they kind of head on their way again.
Yeah, absolutely. It works out really nice. The kids, by the time they're like 2 or 3 days old, they can hop it. So that's why right here, I just opened one of them up.
Sure. Aww.
So, yeah. So
right.
no, this is our setup, and we absolutely love it.
Yeah, like I said, thank you for sharing, because this is definitely a different setup than I've seen before. And sharing the barn and everything, that's very cool. So,
well, thanks.